I'm Christy O'Connor of Art Hustle. I would like to introduce you to Margaret Roleke today. Margaret is currently exhibiting with us now through September 19th in our current exhibition, Thoughts and Prayers, Another Round of Vacant Stares, in collaboration with Shoshama Madawan. Thoughts and Prayers, Another Round of Vacant Stares is an analysis of American gun culture. This exhibition highlights artwork that examines the impact of guns that have within our nation as a symbol of power and freedom, or as an instrument to incite fear and cause harm. Firearms affect all American populations and demographics. The artwork featured in this exhibition is meant to facilitate a dialogue on the divisive iconology of guns and the power or fear they represent, as they allow some to become empowered while suppressing others. Thoughts and Prayers, Another Round of Vacant Stares is a group exhibition featuring 29 artists and additional visual contributions from the nonprofit organization Gays Against Guns, and in collaboration with Moms Demand Action and Unload USA. Roleke is committed to gun control and donates a percentage of all sold work to this cause. She is mainly a sculptor, and recent pieces have been created out of spent shotgun shells, which helped to start a dialogue on this subject. The current political situation has further pushed her into being an activist artist, and this has led to greater involvement with creating work that speaks to the injustice in society. In Roleke's studio practice, she has been exploring creating fences and cages, which reference the current situation at the border. Besides sculpture and installation, she also creates prints. Roleke rarely creates an edition and usually makes one-of-a-kind pieces combining collage, painting, silkscreen, monoprinting, and relief print. Roleke has just begun to create cyanotypes and uses the same images and vocabulary that are referenced in the silkscreen in her sculptural practice. Roleke has lived and worked in New York and Connecticut for most of her life. Her work has been exhibited often in a variety of venues, including recent exhibits of Victorian Mo, New York City, Pen and Brush, Odetta in Brooklyn, and Spring Break Art Fair, New York City. In 2019, Roleke was awarded a residency through Queens Artist Intervention and created a sculpture at Elmhurst Sculpture Park. In 2020, Roleke received an Artist Fellowship Award from the Connecticut Commission on the Arts. Roleke has been reviewed in the New York Times, Hyperallergic, ArtNet News, The Guardian, and additional publications. Good afternoon, Margaret. How are you?
Good, I'm great. Thanks for including me in this exhibit. It's such an important exhibit, and I'm pleased to be part of it.
So, Margaret, as your bio stated, you work a lot with both sculpture and printmaking, and I have to say they're two very different spheres of working. And I guess one of my questions for you, I guess, which came first, the sculpture or the printmaking?
I guess I've always kind of done everything. I used to paint. I did printmaking years ago in college. And I actually then was more of a sculptor until about 15 years ago when there's a Center for Contemporary Printmaking in Norwalk, Connecticut, close to where I live, and they do something called the Monathon each year, in which artists work with a master printer to create art, to create prints. You get to keep some, but it's also like a fundraiser for the art center. So I just, on a whim, decided to participate as, you know, and learn a little bit, and it was great. So that got me going and on doing monoprints, and actually the monoprint that you have on display I think I created around that time when I first got back in. Well, that was maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I got back into printmaking, and it just seemed like I ended up using paper targets, some that I had gotten from like an antique gun shop, and they were just so interesting as a background, and then I added other things to them. So I guess they became, you know, I just started doing that because sometimes the sculpture takes forever, or it's large outdoor installations or indoor installations, and you're not hands-on as much. But actually with the printmaking process, although I have done a few editions, that's rare for me. I kind of like to just, as I think I said, you said in the statement about me, I kind of just love to just sort of play, and it's almost like painting or drawing, like kind of combining things. So that's it.
Very nice. I know before we started recording, I had said we'd look at your sculpture first, but since you're talking about your printmaking already, I feel like maybe we should look at that first, just so that we,
Sure.
Okay. So I'm going to do a screen share, and we're going to look at, I guess, first the work that is in the exhibit itself. So our first piece we have here is Mickey Scorekeeper 2. And would you like to tell us about this piece and how the name came about?
Sure. I guess on the screen, I'm just only seeing all of the images. But anyway,
let me try and fix that then.
Okay.
Share screen. Do you see it?
Yes, I
Okay.
did. Yeah, so yeah, this piece, I guess I call it Mickey Scorekeeper, because actually the name of that actual paper is like a paper target, which I was talking about before, which I glued down onto another piece of paper. And I think in this one, there's like images of, I used different stickers, and maybe one of the stickers, I believe, was like Mickey Mouse. So I use stickers sort of just to block off shapes, even though I don't even see Mickey Mouse. I'm not sure why I called it that. Something looks like an angel on the top.
Yeah.
But I would use these stickers, and I would put them on the piece of plexiglass and then ink up the plexiglass. But I guess the stickers would kind of would not get ink. So that's why they are like the lighter tan color, and the other part is green. And I'm not positive in this piece, but a lot of times I would do a few different layers, doing sort of things like that. So combining, I have 4 children, although they're getting old now, and that, I had done a lot of pieces and wall relief pieces before I got involved with my shotgun shell pieces, using toys and talking about women's role as mothers and also domestic violence against women. So, but I use toys to do that a lot of times. So this is like a similar way.
And so what is the relevance of using toys in your work to represent those issues?
It really just evolved naturally. A lot of older work, I use toy army men, and I guess it just kind of evolved. I did a piece a while ago at Silver Mine Arts Center about the amount of American soldiers killed in Iraq during the Iraq War. And I just stuck toy army men up on a wall, but there were so many of them that it looked like a mountain of men. It looked like a mountain from a distance, and only on closer observation did you see that it was these army men. So I guess in many ways, I feel like the toys sort of bring the viewer into the subject and let them like make some other kind of reference to it, but then see that it's serious. And I think a lot of my work is sort of like that. It's kind of playful and charming, and I like to kind of get the viewer in to look, but then have a serious issue I'm dealing with. But so I found my own self, like sometimes if I go to see artwork and you have to read tons of information, and then you do get the point, but sometimes like you're already like not bored, but like, okay, that was fine. But I felt like with my work, I try to get people in visually and then create a statement. but toys just sort of were something that just kind of evolved naturally for me to work with.
Nice. And so, Margaret, did you, is this an actual gun target from a shooting range?
It's a gun target that I think I bought at Walmart in a pack of them. Yep.
Okay.
So this hasn't been used. There were some that I got through this antique gun shop, and some of them were used or, faded and things, but I don't think I've used many that were actually taken from a shooting range.
Mm.
Maybe that's a good idea, though.
So I'm gonna see if I can move, go to the next image, and you tell me, do you still see just with the one image?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And this is titled Green Guns.
Yes, this is a newer, fairly a new piece. A couple of years ago, I made this, and I actually also did this at the Center for Contemporary Printmaking when they had the Monathon again, and I was working with this master printer, Julio Valdez, who's based in Harlem, and they have guest artists come in to help, or guest master printers. So this is actually another piece that has 2 paper targets glued down onto the paper, but then I had been doing these pieces where I used really strange thing. When I was getting into the toys, I bought some toys from an import-export company, and this company sold 3D guns that you can make yourself out of this foam. So those actual gun shapes, they're not stickers. There's this foam guns that I put down. So they kind of blocked the ink. So then the ink, the green ink, kind of brought the whole piece together like that.
Yeah, and you can tell the difference between the type of materials you used. The imprints of the guns is so much sharper in this image than the previous image with the stickers. Could you tell us more about that process, or is it really just solely based on the materials you chose to use to block out the ink?
This piece is more recent, so I think in the beginning, yeah, it is very experimental. Like, I'm not always positive what's going to come out, and like this was very clear and came out, and I'm like, yes, that's like a bold statement and it works. But a lot of times things get, especially if I'm not working with a master printer and doing it on my own, things get kind of messy sometimes. Okay. So then you're doing more and more layers, and sometimes the stickers work and sometimes they don't. I love it though. I love that it's, for me, I don't care. Like I can have pieces that I did several years ago and I'm like, they are not solved. So now that I got into doing cyanotypes, which is a photographic process, I've taken some of my old prints that I felt like aren't resolved, and then I do a cyanotype on top of them. So I really do think I'm really experimental most of the time, just trying to get an image that works, but it sort of just comes naturally if it works or doesn't work, you know.
And so what I'd like to ask you what initially started the whole series focusing in on guns and gun violence for you? Was there a catalyst?
You know what?
Or
like, well, there's a couple things. Many, like 2006 or so, I did a piece on weapons of mass destruction, which was a light box, which I've now converted and redid. And that was about the amount of, that was about the Iraq War and why did we go in there. And at that point, I took a metal sign, had it 4 foot by 8 foot, and made it into this weapons of mass destruction sign in pink letters, and had it shot at a shooting range. And that kind of got me, I was given like spent shotgun shells, other things there, but I didn't really use them. I had them in my studio, but I wasn't sure what to do. And then I also had, because I was kind of like, my kids were getting older, I was getting more involved with social issues, I guess, but in just, you know, in just, it just sort of was evolving naturally. I'm like, I'm not about toys, I'm about this, you know. But anyway, so I had those, and I also went to that antique store to get more shotgun shells because they had used ones there or something. So I kind of had these materials but wasn't sure what I was doing. Then I actually was affected by Sandy Hook. I knew a grandfather whose child was killed, who was one of my kids' teachers, because I lived near that area at the time. And that was just a shocking, horrible crime. And I think that kind of got me more fired up and involved with doing work to talk about gun control or gun violence. And that's what I really, I mean, even though it's like maybe somebody who likes guns would like these images, I mean, I think that's okay. I don't, you know, I just want to get a dialogue going. Like, I feel like the exhibit you have going, it's like, there's just too much gun violence in this country, and just to get a conversation is what I really want to do.
Yeah. And I honestly feel it's just so difficult to even have a conversation anymore, because even if you bring up something that you think is like a generally reasonable thing, like, hey, maybe background checks are a good idea, it becomes all of a sudden people who don't agree with you or tell you that that's an extreme thing. It's interesting.
Yeah, no, it's become so polarized, you know, but I really do think most people would want background checks and that kind of thing, but I don't know. But there are so many good organizations working to, you know, to bring these issues up. Because I am involved with that Unload organization, and I know you had Miggs Burrows speak a little bit, and I felt like I've gone to some of their events, and they've kind of one woman's child was killed, but she's become somebody who's pretty good at speaking to people on the other side because they kind of have some sympathy. I don't know. I guess I just feel like gun makers make too much money, and it's a hard situation.
Yeah. So I'm gonna skip the sculpture just for a second so that we could look at the other prints that you sent me. This is an interesting one. Could you tell me the name of this one, Margaret?
I think this one's called Body, and I did another one that was Head, and it just shocked me that is the paper target with the body shape that I then made into a monoprint again. It was just black and white, but then I did a few different things. I guess it was black and blue, maybe. I'm not actually even positive. But anyway, the shape going against the body laying down is like a woman's, like a sticker of a woman. And there were a few other things like that, but I just found, and another woman up on the top, like laying down. I forget actually how many layers there were in this piece, but I just felt it was crazy that you can go and buy a target to show you where to hit somebody on the arm or head. I mean, I could understand for the police or somebody going to war or something like that, but it's just odd that you can go to Walmart and buy targets of somebody's, you know, body and try to shoot at them. But what I thought is like, in the end, I feel like I like to make mine be like a pretty design or something, like, or interesting visually with the colors. And then the same thing, it's sort of like then becomes, oh, what is that? But at first it's sort of just like this striking image.
Well, and you know, this actually, this kind of reminds me in a very unsettling way. Also, kind of like that, the general idea of the male gaze and how men break women into parts at times, and so I'm seeing that as well, and then it being translated as a gun target is doubly unsettling for me, just because you're seeing people as parts in a more violent way even.
Hmm. Okay, yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah,
It's
but
like
it's
violence against women. Like so many of the gun deaths are really from families have. I mean, not all, but I mean, have families or domestic violence. So,
yeah.
interesting.
Especially there's the image of the woman. It looks like a woman laying down with her feet in the air, kind of
Yeah,
in a passive pose there.
yeah.
Yeah. And I'm also getting like dressmaking pattern feeling from this too.
Right, right. I
Yeah.
know. There's numbers of where to shoot.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a beautiful piece. I guess the way I'm interpreting it is making it even more unsettling for me.
Mm.
And then this one is titled Bully.
Yes, yes. Um, then in the last couple of years, I started doing more silk screen with collage and also monoprint. So this piece actually, there's some rabbits. They're the antique paper target right in the middle. That is a
Oh,
collage
that's what
piece
that is.
collaged on, and it was like how to shoot those were one of the old targets. It was like how to shoot this animal dead.
Mm,
It just like fascinated me that even I'm sure it's fine if you're shooting the animal to eat dinner, but it was just crazy for me. And then I collaged that on. I think I did a monoprint that's collaged on. The target on the upper left-hand side and then there's a small target also collaged on above the figure that's laying down. So anyway, so those were collaged on. I did a monoprint using the different colors, and probably those red circles are like I probably maxed out part or used circle stickers. And then I did silk screen on top of them. So I kind of got involved with silk screen, but I actually don't think I've done one silk screen edition, but usually I kind of just have all these different screens going and put things on top of each other. So, I mean, this was called Bully. There is Trump's face in there
I see
and his
that.
body laying down. And so it's kind of, it's sort of humorous in some weird way, but this is like a similar kind of idea.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You know what I find really interesting about your work is you incorporate Disney characters into a lot of it. Like that tiger is that's the tiger from Aladdin, correct?
I think so. I'm not sure which. Yeah, but I don't know. It's weird. Some of these things just become like this. I'm not so literal with everything or have this great deep meaning, but I kind of like, to me, the president is really a laughable character. And like, these are some other characters that are like
Yeah.
just more of a comic strip person. I guess I was very upset after he won and started doing pieces related to that in some manner, but it's still combining my gun stuff in
Yeah.
there.
I mean, it's all relevant. He's in charge of a lot of different elements of that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
And then,
no, but it's been really fun to start doing the silk screening because it's like a whole different way of working too. So that's been nice to start on that.
so what is your process when you decide you're going to do a silk screen layered like this? Do you start with the mono printing first or the collaging?
Um, in this early one I did, but since this was one of the earlier ones using the silk screen, but since that time, I think I've done a lot that are just the silk screen with different layers on top of one another, or I will I've only really done the silk screen when I go and work at the printmaking center. So, but sometimes at home I would prepare some paper that I have and glue things down that I think would work. Um, so I don't know if that doesn't really answer the question, but I think recently it's been more of just this using silk screen and not even using the monoprint.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start, those were all of the prints you sent me, correct? Or did
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. So the next, we'll start looking at your sculpture. This is the sculpture you have installed at Shishama right now. This is titled Once Fired. And I guess tell us about the materials and the piece.
So a few years back, I started using the spent shotgun shells. That might be hard to tell from this image if what they that they are spent shells, but I started making different sculptures using them, and these are all strung together with wire. They were all shot at a shooting range in Connecticut. A neighbor of mine actually is a gun owner and used to be part of this shooting club. I don't think he does it anymore, but he's retired, and he will give me, he saw that I had started using these, and he'll just go give them to me, because a lot of times they're just thrown away, and there's like lead in some of them. It's like it's like an environmental disaster, although I know that some people do refill them and use them again. But it was really fun to do this piece because I had not done anything really, I don't think I've done anything that was on the ceiling. So I kind of just went crazy, and I felt like it became this like kind of massive chandelier going around. And these are all like strung like I string them different ways, but these are more like a chain, one in the other. And if up close, they say like the company that made them and everything else. So I felt like they've transcended for me like what they are. In some way, they've become like my paint. And they're kind of just fun to draw with. And I feel like the idea is similar. It's like engages the viewer in something beautiful, and then they kind of like, oh, what is that? What's going on?
Yeah. So it's repurpose the material into a new thing until you look up close and you're like, oh, that's what it is. So
Right,
I didn't even consider the environmental impact that bullet casings would have on the environment. That's a whole other element that we should be looking at and thinking about.
Yeah.
So do the bullet casings come in those colors, or did you paint them?
They come in those colors. They're not always, yeah, I mean, I think most of them are red and green, but like these pink ones, somebody told me, oh, those were breast cancer awareness shotgun shells. I'm like, what? So there aren't, red seems to be the most common that my friend gives me, but I'm like, I want the other colors, but there's been some that are gold, and actually some red ones, I reused them. So I did an outdoor piece that was out for a year, and some of the red ones actually turned more of a light blue. I don't know if the dye in the red came off. So some of them I've put in. So those are changed, but besides that, I just use what I have. Yeah.
And so it's a really beautiful piece, and I definitely see the chandelier aspect of it. Let's see if there's another view of this. So here's another angle. And it takes up almost the entire gallery ceiling space. Now, when you're stringing these along, are you considering like a pattern or colors, or are you just kind of Like, does it become a meditative process while you're creating these?
Kind of. I mean, because I had not, although you had sent me pictures, I hadn't really seen the space before. So I guess I sort of just wanted it to be something that, yeah, it just kind of came naturally. I was like, okay, how can I make this all come together and actually look like something from every angle? And I guess if I did more on one side, then I'd go to the other side and try to get it going that way. And then I didn't, because there's so many other artists in the show, I didn't want it to like hang too much and interfere with everybody else's pieces that were on the other walls. So I guess it just evolved it just kind of evolved naturally. I mean, it really depends on the piece sometimes. Like, it depends on the space I have and how it would go. Or are there other people's work to consider, or do I have this whole room myself, and that kind of thing.
Nice. So this is an outdoor installation that you've made. Could you tell us about this piece?
Yes, I mean, this is really a work in progress. I just made this summer for a proposal for something, so I'll see if I get it. But I have done a lot with the spent shotgun shells and several outdoor pieces, which is, it's great because they last. And sometimes I will not knit this piece, but other times I'll kind of use a very thick, heavy wire and put them together in more of like a chaotic pattern. They're not strung linearly, they're kind of just hooked in another way. And that's been great because a lot of outdoor pieces have a public that's going to interact with them, and you have to make sure it's safe and things. So I actually, this frame is 8 feet by 4 feet steel piece that I actually have used in several different pieces as an outdoor piece once, and then it didn't sell. So I had it back. I moved and was going to get rid of it, but I didn't. And then I have 2 of these, and I use them in laying down at Governor's Island for a large piece I did out of the spent shells. But so anyway, I decided that I love the linear look, and so I strung these together, and I love how they're more like when I was younger. I did a lot of pieces using plexiglass, and how that changes outside and the color changes. But actually, because these spent shells are plastic, they kind of act like that. So in this piece, I just loved how the sun was coming through and they kind of glow like that, and just they transform into something different than spent shotgun shells, unless you're like walking right up to it.
Yeah.
So, that was just something I've been doing while I'm home.
What's interesting about this piece is it looks like it could be like a functional, like a functional piece of some sort, like either like an outhouse or like an outdoor shower type thing, that sort of like functionality aspect to it feels like it's there, like it serves a purpose, as opposed to just generally just being an artistic piece.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and I love how it's like the plexi. It just changes through the day depending on where the sun is shining and all that. But yeah, maybe it looks like something should be functioning in there. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Now because they're plastic shell casings, does the color fade over time in the sunlight, do you know?
Yes, I mean, I was saying that the red ones that were there for a year at a place, some of them kind of lost their color and became like a bluer color. But usually I actually spray them all with a plastic coating to try to make sure that they don't fade. But also the top of them is a metal, so that can rust also. So usually I try to seal them all with the plastic coating, which seals it to a degree. So, I would say that, who knows? I mean, I don't know if they would last forever,
Yeah.
without disintegrating. But then plastic lasts a long time. So,
It sure
yeah.
does. Again, that
Yeah.
environmental impact that I just didn't even take into consideration.
Yeah, no, and I feel like lots of people say, oh, yeah, I always see these when I'm hiking, like in different parts of Vermont or upstate New York or something.
Hmm.
So it's sort of weird because, I mean, a lot of them still have some lead in them from the shot that comes out of them. So it's kind of pretty bad. I know that my boyfriend said that he only went once years ago, like to this Housatonic River near here. There used to be a shooting range and people would shoot, I guess, skeet or they'd throw something up and you'd shoot and it would land, whatever landed would land in the water.
Oh
I mean,
God.
they don't do that anymore, but that's crazy.
Yeah. And that's so funny. I didn't even think, like, you hear that expression like eat lead or whatever, but like I never really thought about bullets actually containing lead in them. So
Yeah, I mean, I think some they've changed and not everyone has the same thing in
yeah,
there.
very interesting. There was more. Oh, here we go. These are so interesting. They kind of remind me of kind of like a play area or a jungle gym, which
Oh.
I don't know if I should, be feeling that way about these.
That's okay. Yes, see, that's the same metal structure, but completely different. So that's what I was trying to say before, like in these pieces, this was at Odetta Gallery in Bushwick, Brooklyn, about 2 years ago. And they're, over 8 feet tall, like 8.5 feet. So it was great when people walked around and walked in them. And actually the gallery owner, Ellen Hackle-Fagan, said she thought it was like one of the best shows because it's a very industrial area, even though there's a bunch of galleries nearby. And she said so many like teenagers or men off the street would walk in and be like, they knew what it was or something, or they were fascinated by it. So I felt like, so this is called Pop. So it's sort of like that. And it's the similar idea, but here, like the shotgun shells are more like, they're strung together, but not like from top to bottom. So they become like this massive thing. And a lot of them have the really heavy gauge wire so that it's kind of sticks out and falls and does all this different stuff. So yeah.
I mean, I definitely see like the interactive possibilities with this piece where people actually allowed to go inside and walk around in the structure.
Not in the structure, because on the floor that is a lot of shells.
Okay,
just
yeah, I see that.
There, just pile of them. Also, it's weird, but there still is lead on the outside of shells. So if I work with these, I should wear gloves. I don't always wear gloves, but your hands will get dirty.
Oh wow!
From the stuff that's on there, and people even said, "Oh, I smell it. I smell like." I don't know, I smell the remnants of like a shot.
Oh, wow.
So, this was kind of, it's weird. It's kind of similar. It's weird. It's fun, but then sort of serious. Like, how can there be that many shotgun shells? There's thousands.
Now, for a piece like this, do you have an estimate of how many shotgun shells it took to make something like this?
I don't even really know.
Yeah.
I don't really know. Yeah, because then the whole
500 or 600, right?
Probably more than that, because the bottom is 4 feet by 4 feet, and so then I covered the edge, and then I poured like a few inches of them in there. So no, there's a lot, and then on this one, besides the wire, then I use zip ties actually to kind of hold it together. But I would come with bags and bags of these things in boxes. But it was really fun to have it in this indoor space, such large pieces.
Yeah.
Fun, I don't know.
Well, I mean, but that's the thing. It does look like it does look appealing and like it's a fun structure. Like I said, it reminds me of like a children's playhouse or like jungle gym type scenario, like a Chuck E. Cheese part of a room. And that's, that's another part of, how guns infiltrate their way into, children's, I guess, curiosity in a way.
Yeah. When I had a similar piece, but it was laying down, so about 5 feet high and much more fuller at Governor's Island, that was really interesting because that was outdoors. And I remember like a dad walking up with his kids and the kids started playing with it. It was 30 feet long. They were separated and connected. It was huge. And I'm like, oh, you really shouldn't touch this. He's like, why? Isn't this a plaything? I mean, they didn't even really know right away. And a lot of people would be like, what is that? Is that lighters? Is that like but that was really good. I loved that because I feel like sometimes, we just have art people going to galleries, and that was just like the general public could walk around the grounds. And it was wonderful to engage people. And they'd be like, oh yeah, remember your father had that gun? Or people would just get into these conversations. So yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
I think that might be all of the work.
Okay.
Yeah, that's everything. I'm gonna stop the share. Yeah, so oh, Margaret, would you like to tell us about the organization some of the proceeds to your sales go to?
I've sent it to different places. Let me think. There's the one to end gun violence. I think it's I've got to look them all up, but it's different places each time. And I don't always sell that much. But there's a lot of organizations out there working for gun control, basically. Yeah. I guess, what is that? Yeah. Anyway, I'll send it to you. Yeah. But right here in Connecticut, the Unload Foundation is more bringing the arts to have a discussion about gun control. So they're a great place too. And then there's the Connecticut organization to end gun violence. I think it's CTGV. And then there's the Sandy Hook Promise, which was started in Newtown. They're great. And then the kids from Florida. What is the name of their organization that they started at Marjorie's? Yeah, they started some organization too. I heard them speak. They were on a tour, and last summer they were up in Newtown, Connecticut, and spoke. So I love that there's so many young people involved with getting this issue out there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think I mean, if you think about it, I was in high school when Columbine occurred, and that was the first really big shooting that happened while I was in school. And so every generation, every year after me, that's when the active shooter drills began to become commonplace and whatnot. And so I just feel like there's not a every child has been affected by this issue one way or another, just by being in public schools, really. And it's just
right. I know it's sad. It's sad that instead of a fire drill, you have to do these other drills.
Yeah.
It's really sad. But it's like the mass shootings are horrible, but there's so much gun violence just in the in inner cities. And I'm close to New Haven, and we did an exhibit in New Haven about these issues, and it was actually wonderful because it's at the Eli Center of Contemporary Art. We had a lot of discussions and groups come in, and we had doctors and people in the emergency room talking about just in New Haven the amount of gun violence that occurs. And it was just, even though Connecticut actually has very good gun laws, the guns come in from all over, you know, from other states. And they even said, like, sometimes people who have come in shot once, they're going to get shot again sometimes. I mean, it's just, it was just so hard to hear, but it seemed like there's so many people out there who want to make things better, you know. You know, I don't know.
Well, hopefully it gets better soon.
Right.
One can, you know, yeah. And you know, you saying that about mass shootings, I feel like my brain is like programmed to really focus in on mass shootings, and I feel like a lot of people's brains are programmed to think about that before we think about the general gun violence that occurs every day. And I'm not sure what that's about, or how we can like reprogram ourselves to focus in on the everyday violence too, because it's all an issue.
Right. And no, and I think, well, the mass shootings is like, just is what, like, it gets in the news and it's there. And, but it's even like, if you are suicidal and you have a gun in the house, you know, that kind of thing. There's so much of suicides and things that really, if this gun was locked up, you might feel differently the next day. You know, I feel like we just need more social, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. So Margaret, you have just such a large body of work between your printmaking and your sculpture and your earlier work with the toys. I was on your website, and I highly recommend anyone interested in finding out more about Margaret to go on her website. It is, I could do a quick screen share if you'd like of your website.
Sure. I need to update things, but I did some yesterday.
Well, I'll just go on your landing page. Let's see. Where are you? Here you are. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So this is Margaret's website. It's margaretroleke.com, and you can find all of her different types of printmaking pieces, wall reliefs, sculpture, and the newer cyanotypes, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So
some of them.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's been fun doing these cyanotypes recently.
I love cyanotype printmaking. It is not an easy thing to do from home, that's for sure.
I did a workshop last summer with Joe Yarrington, and then I just only started doing it since I've been home, but it's been great. It's been great to do. It's really fun because I did get some screens, but I haven't started doing silk screen at home. So this is kind of, this is a similar kind of process for me.
Yeah. These are beautiful, and there's like a painterly quality to a lot of these too, which I really appreciate.
No, I was really pleased that first image that you showed, I did a cyanotype thanking the healthcare workers, because actually in Jersey City, Drawing Rooms has a exhibition up in which artists were supposed to do a banner and put something out of their house, and I did a cyanotype on cloth for them, and then I did some paper ones, and that evolved to I sent that image into this organization, Save Art Space, and they were having billboards in Detroit, and they chose that one. And I was like, whoa, they made it into this huge billboard. I didn't make it out to see it, but I was like, okay, that was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, congrats
Yeah,
on that. That's
it
an
was fun.
incredible,
It was fun.
incredible. I would be so excited
Thanks.
if I had something on a billboard.
I know.
um,
I was like, I want to go see it, but then with the pandemic, it was just. I'm not sure if it's still there. They were going to keep it there and for at least a month. It opened in
mhm.
July sometime, but I guess if nobody rents it, they just keep it up. But it's some crazy dimensions. I'm like, oh my god! So that's been a fun new process to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
that's great.
okay.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I highly recommend for those watching to take a look at Thoughts and Prayers, Another Round of Vacant Stares on our website at arthustle.net, or you can make an appointment at the physical gallery now through September 19th. Margaret, is there any additional information you'd like to share with us about upcoming events or anything about your work that you'd like to share additionally with us?
Not necessarily. I'm in I'm in a show opening September 13th at in New Haven at the Eli Center again, and that is about called Now, and lots of artists are responding to the pandemic and other things going on. Black Lives Matter. So I do have one of my cyanotypes that's been made into a banner back in the backyard of that. So. I just appreciate Christy putting me in this exhibit, and it's great, and I've loved seeing the other artists' work. It's wonderful.
Well, I would just like to thank you for being a part of it. I actually met Margaret at the Art Fair 14C in Jersey City back in February of this year, and you know, we just started talking, and she took a chance on, you know, on me, and I'm really glad that we connected. So I want
Yeah,
to thank you.
thank you.
Okay.